Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On-Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on-demand care for common ailments, such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org.
Boise State Public Radio, because of you.
You hear these stories every year, like people coming on air, whether it's locally or nationally, stressing the importance of, hey, we really need your funds. Like, if you like what you're listening to, you need to donate. Like, I don't want to just be a casual listener anymore. You know, I want to be engaged and make sure this stuff is around for years and years to come.
We do it because of you. Thank you for your support at boisestatepublicradio.org.
More Idaho Matters now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Gaudette. Right now in Rexburg, there are more than 500 kids who need a bed to sleep on. Madison County is home to just more than 50,000 people, and it's tucked away in the Upper Snake River Valley. And it's also one of the Idaho counties that we haven't visited yet for our Idaho 44 project. So when Luke Mickelson sent us an email about his nonprofit called Sleep in Heavenly Peace, we had to find out more, especially since the Rexburg chapter was the third one to start building beds for kids. So Luke is joining us now to talk about the origin of the nonprofit and how they've grown to more than 200 chapters in 47 states. Luke, welcome to the show.
Gemma, thanks for having me on. This is great.
So Luke, tell us about yourself. Where did you grow up?
Oh, I small town Kimberly, man. I'm a Kimberly Bulldog. Loved it.
Oh. So you've talked about how not having a lot of money when you grew up and how one Christmas you found, is this true, $1,500 in your mailbox?
Well,
Gemma, yeah, go ahead.
The beauty about living in a small town, is the same thing why it's like the downside too, is everybody and they know you. And, and living in a small town, you develop a character that you don't realize you are. And that's just supporting people. When you're driving down the road and someone's pulled over the side of the road, you want to stop and help because you know them, and their brothers and their cousins. And well, some of the best parts about living in a small town is you take care of each other. And yeah, when my parents split up right before my high school career, if you will, that Christmas was going to be a little rough with the 5 kids and a single mom. And our community stepped up. They supported our Christmas and probably rent, I'm sure. But yeah, I walked out there and there's $1,500 in an envelope, unmarked. And so,
wow,
it's just an example of, when people can, they do. And so I grew up, when I can, I will. And that came from that.
And I mean, I would think that really impacted you then when in terms of giving back to people.
Yeah. Well, you just had to. I mean, had to. You didn't have to, but you certainly felt to, and then you wanted to. And and I grew up in Idaho, as hopefully everybody listening has, and realizes that's just the mentality that we have here is service and helping other people and looking out for other people. And and I loved that. When I served a mission for my church, I remember I had some great advice from the leader of the mission. He said, Luke, whatever career you go into, if you never want to work a day in your life, look at it as a way to serve people. And it was so true, because you when you're out there serving someone, no matter how hard the job is, it just feels different. It's not about a paycheck anymore. It feels like you're actually making a difference in someone else's lives. And that fulfillment has always been something I sought out for.
So I want to talk about Sleep in Heavenly Peace. My understanding is that this started in a garage. I mean, and maybe a Boy Scout meeting led to some of this. So walk us through how you got this up and going.
Yeah, it started as simply as it sounds. I was a leader in a position called Young Men's President, where I was responsible for the activities for these boys ages 12 to 17. And the activity that we picked was for Boy Scouts, basically the Boy Scout troop. And I wasn't the leader of the Boy Scouts. I wasn't the Boy Scoutmaster, but I was over the leaders of the church, or the leaders of the Boy Scout program. Well, every other week we'd have meetings and we discuss leadership meetings. We discuss what's going on in the community. We would discuss people that were helping or needed help in our congregation as well as in the community. Well, one family came up that kind of caught my ear because I've been riding my bike around this town in Kimberly forever. It's not a big town. I thought I knew every place that there was someone living. Well, there was an apartment complex I didn't know even existed. And that's where this family lived. And the family was struggling a little bit. The leader that showed up at the house kind of assessed what they needed. And they needed some things. They needed some food and rides to school and to work. And the kids didn't have any beds and they needed bikes. And I was like, wait a minute. Did you just say the kids don't have any beds? And the leader said, yeah, and I said, certainly they've got mattresses, right? Just sleeping on the mattresses. And she said, no, they're actually sleeping just on the floor. And that hit me, Gemma, so hard. And I'm sure it did everybody else, but for whatever reason, I just thought of my own kids sleeping on the floor, and then I thought about my Boy Scouts and I got a little excited because finding an activity for teenage kids nowadays that doesn't involve a screen or a computer or an Xbox was difficult to do. And so I thought, here's a great opportunity to get an Xbox controller out of these boys' hands and put a drill in it, and we'll teach them something, right? And I'd never built furniture before in my life, but I wanted them to feel the joy of service and how that you feel when you give back and stop thinking about yourself, as well as appreciate the things they had. And so we built this bed for this family, and the word kind of got out this is what we're doing, and everybody wanted to show up and be a part of this. It was kind of a cool deal. Well, I couldn't send 30 people over to this small apartment, so me and a bunch of people stayed back, but I wanted the Boy Scouts to go and experience that, right? To see the fruits of their efforts, and as well as to understand what it might be like and what you would see if kids were sleeping on the floor. And the next day at church, they told me how amazing it was, how the kids were so grateful and the parents were grateful and they were excited and the things that they learned. It was awesome. I was a little jealous because I didn't get to go on the delivery, but I was happy for the kids. I was happy for them. And the next week, it's funny how life just kind of creeps back in, and you're just back to the same old rut that you're in. And I remember me and my kids were watching like Big Bang Theory. This is 2012, so it was a while ago. And a commercial came on, and this is right before Christmas. So like every parent experiences this when their kids see something on the TV before Christmas, they want it, right? And it was another Xbox game or something. I don't remember. But I remember thinking, listen, here's a great opportunity that I don't want to miss out of teaching my kids the same thing I taught the Boy Scouts, right? Is the joy of service and giving back. And if sports, growing up in Idaho, taught me anything, playing time was the best practice. And so I got up from the couch and walked to the garage, and my kid said, where are you going? I said, I got some leftover wood. I'm going to build another bunk bed, and you're going to come help me. So that's what we did. Me and my two older kids, they were 7 and 10 at the time. We built another bunk bed for we actually didn't know who to give it to. I had already solved the only child that I knew was sleeping on the floor. But when I put it on Facebook, Buy Sell Trade, as, hey, this is a family Christmas project. We built a bunk bed. We'd like to give it to a family that's got kids sleeping on the floor. 2 things happened. First of all, I had a lot of comments from people I didn't know who they were, and some from friends I hadn't talked to for, decades. And then the second shocking thing was what they talked about. All of them knew kids that were sleeping on the floor. And I didn't know that it was this bad.
So from there, so here you are in Kimberly, and you all of a sudden start Sleep in Heavenly Peace. As I mentioned, you end up in Rexburg for your third location. Let's fast forward because it's 2026. How did you go from that to building beds for kids in now 47 states?
Yeah. Well, when you're doing something good, right? People show up, and especially in a mission that is not being served. And that was the shocking thing to me. The more we built and shared with the public, 2 things: the more kids we found, and realized how bad child bedlessness really is. It's not a real word. It doesn't even know it's a word, or that it's not a word, but it's a real problem. And the more people wanted to help. And so when Levi Schaefer and his wife and his kids saw that what we were doing in Twin Falls, he wanted to do that up there. Him and many, many other people, right? And we just slowly grew and grew. And then something happened in 2018 where we were featured on a hit show called Returning the Favor by the great Mike Rowe. And we were viewed by 10 million people. And it was the megaphone that we needed to be announced to the country. And from them, we have now trained over 440 chapters. We're in almost every state and 4 countries. And this summer, we will celebrate our 400,000th bed that we've built.
How do you find these kiddos who need beds? And I have about just a minute and a half left with you.
You bet. So anybody can go to our website, shpbeds.org, and it's going to bring up the closest chapter to you. You can do a bunch of stuff there. You're going to see how many kids are on their waiting list. You're going to see how many beds they built. You can see events and activities that you can be a part of. You can donate directly to that chapter. There's a spot there that says apply for a bed. You can apply for a bed for your own child, for your neighbor's child, or your friend's child 6 states over, right? Depending on the zip code, that's where the application goes to. And then if there's not a chapter in your area, you can start one. There's a lot of ways to help. And the biggest thing is just help us raise awareness that child bedlessness is a real problem in our state and in our country. I'm trying to work with the local and state leaders to be able to help understand how bad this problem is, because there is nobody in the country. When I wanted to be a nonprofit, I looked all over. There was one nonprofit in the entire country that was providing beds for kids. And that's why it's so needed, and that's why people want to help.
Yeah. Well, Luke, I just appreciate you reaching out to us and telling us this story. It is so nice to be able to once in a while share some really good news and good things that people are doing for our community and for the broader community. We've been speaking with Luke Mickelson. He is the founder of Sleep in Heavenly Peace. It's a nonprofit that builds free beds for kids in places like Rexburg in Madison County. And as we mentioned, Luke sent us an email. He told us about his nonprofit, and now you all know about it. And if you've got a story from your county that you want us to share with our Idaho 44 project, email us just like Luke did, idahomatters@boisestate.edu. And thanks so much for listening to Idaho Matters from Boise State Public Radio. Do you have thoughts about today's episode? Make sure you email us at idahomatters@boisestate.edu or reach out on our socials. If you're really enjoying this show, a quick rating or review on Apple or Spotify really helps other folks discover us, and we'd appreciate it.
If you like podcasts like this, explore more from the Boise State Public Radio podcast family. There you'll find a mix of daily news, Idaho Voices, and in-depth series on a wide range of topics. I'm talking wild horses, political scandals, sustainable ranching, and militia groups in a post-January 6th world. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search Boise State Public Radio to find what Idaho's NPR station has in store for you.